Hi everyone, it is Wednesday. It is day 2 of the OETC conference here in Columbus, Ohio. With me now is Ty Pierce, and Ty is the manager in education and multimedia services at the Ohio History Connection. So history is thought of old and stuffy and boring. How do we bring it to the 21st century?
I think, I'm glad you asked that because I think we actually have already brought it to the 21st century. Museums tend to do a really good job of trying to bridge that gap in really innovative ways between whatever their stuff is and the stories, in our case, that we steward, and the classroom. As far as bringing it to the 21st century, right off the top of mind, Ohio is America is a 4th grade digital textbook that we created. It's actually been out since 2011 and has been adopted by tens of thousands of students across the state. We're currently redesigning that, so it's like we already brought it to the 21st century, and now we're kind of getting it up to speed as well, because so much has changed in the classroom in the last 4 years. The iPad was invented 5 years ago, right? So, we're talking an enormous revolution. Now, when you have a lot more schools doing one-to-one, doing Chromebook carts, we wanted to take that time to take kind of that flagship product that's being used so well and got a lot of great reviews and helping teachers do their job better, and update it to be able to make better use of that technology based on teacher feedback and their input. So that's been huge. There's a lot of different ways to do this, because at the end of the day, I like to say that new is just another word for old.
Yeah.
And it's all about stories, right? And story doesn't change. The ways we use different things and the technology we have to tell stories may change, but that's essentially history, right? And making that relevant is a pretty easy thing to do, especially because kids have that innate interest, that innate curiosity. If you can tap that right with story, the rest of it just happens, plays out.
That's a really powerful point. It's one that I've thought a lot about too. I'm a former elementary teacher and love history. I'm a history buff. And I often found, elementary, 5th grade, you'd always hear the kids say, "Oh, history's so boring." And I think for me as a learner, and I think for most people, you don't love history until you can see it through your own mind's eye.
Right. No, I agree with that.
So today's technology has that power to do that and bring to life textbooks and histories, and make them not so dry and crusty. So.
Well, and I think it's not just the technology. Certainly, the technology helps. For a long time, we've been a big proponent of getting out of the mode of teaching dates and places and faces, right? And that's, I think, why a lot of times it's viewed as stuffy and kind of boring. But those stories are incredible, and so just the advent of, I think, the individualization that goes on in today's classroom. Project-based learning is perfect. It's perfect for anything involving history, because you're not doing it yourself. You're taking something you're interested in. We were lucky enough to work with a set of schools in Dublin on a project that's essentially that. They were creating kind of their own Wonderopolis. They termed it Ohiopolis, but it was about Ohio history. And to see some of what these kids did, again, the technology wasn't the point. It was kind of empowering them to go off and find and learn and do something they were interested in. And so at the end of it, you have a group of 4th grade students who created a rap video about the black laws in the early 1800s. Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible, and that power of autonomy that they have when using the technology. It's not just the technology for technology's sake, but it's make it a tool that they can use and just let them go. So I think it's perfect for history, especially.
I love that connection with music, and I know they're taking modern day music and kind of putting it together with history. But I've often thought, and I kick myself now thinking back, I never really brought historical based music to the classroom, and I think that taps into a whole nother sphere of the brain for history learning.
That's interesting.
I have that in multimedia presentations that you have?
Not music specifically. We end up doing quite a bit with historical music on kind of the multimedia side of the house with documentary production and those sorts of things. We just recorded some Shaker music, recreated Shaker music from the early 1800s, which was really, really pretty interesting to hear. We've not done a specific effort, I think, to just specifically music. Certainly it's worked into different programs that we have. A lot of those are like in-person programs, either with field trips that come in, or some of the outreach programs we have. But I think you're absolutely right, because that can be a very, music spans all ages, right? And that'd be an interesting way to, I think, approach that. Which you and I might have to talk more about that.
I like it. I'm in. So tell us about, you're in the exhibit hall, Hall C.
Yes.
And you'll be you're there for the rest of the conference?
We are. We're at booth 538, Ohio History Connection, and you can come by and talk to us about whatever needs you have, how you're looking to teach social studies in the classroom, and not just social studies. I mean, the ELA crossover is a very easy one for history to make. I mean, that's kind of easy all day. It's almost bread and butter at this point. But I found that I think that there's a lot of power in using social studies to teach science, for instance. You can take the Wright brothers and teach the scientific method really hard and really specifically using those primary sources. And so more and more, the classroom is less disciplinary. These disciplines aren't taught in silos. And to me, I think social studies is kind of the glue that binds all those different disciplines together and makes it meaningful, and gives it a way for the students to see themselves in it and see it around them in their community. So it's huge. It's all good.
And so for schools, they can contact you, and they use your resources.
Yes.
They can access your resources.
Yes. OhioHistory.org is kind of the first place to go. If you're looking for primary sources about Ohio, I have to plug OhioMemory.org, collaborative statewide digital library with over 500,000 images. We also have the National Digital Newspaper Project. Ohio Memory is free to use. National Digital Newspaper Project for Ohio, also free to use. So tons and tons of newspapers that are great to pull into the classroom and see what kids find. It's just an enormous amount of stuff out there, and we're glad to make it available and help.
Great. So come on down to that exhibit hall. And what was your booth again?
538, Ohio History Connection, and we'll be there for the rest of the conference, so stop by and say hi.
Great. All right. Well, you can't leave without some speaky questions.
Okay.
So
fantastic.
If we can bring these up here quickly.
All right. I've never done this. This should be fun.
So you get 3 of them, so just hit the green button.
Green button. All right.
Yeah, you hit it again if you want to speed it up.
This makes you Pat Sajak, by the way. I don't know who's Vanna. It might be me, maybe.
Oh, you got a tough one. Gryffindor or Slytherin?
Gryffindor.
Okay.
I've got to go Gryffindor, and not just because of Harry Potter, but it's like I don't know that I have the meanness in me for Slytherin. I feel like I'm generally an optimist, and I think it'd probably be Gryffindor.
That's a good thing. All right.
All right. It's hilarious.
We have had some people to say Slytherin.
They're out there. There wouldn't be the house if there wasn't.
Okay, so this is kind of a gamer question. World of Warcraft, Angry Birds. Do you play any games on your phone?
I keep games.
Call of Duty.
I keep games off my phone so that my kids don't keep asking me for my phone. I gotta go Angry Birds because if I'm gonna do some form of game, it's got to be short because I don't have an hour. I may have 5 minutes, so. Yeah, especially not on the edge of World of Warcraft, man. That's a lifestyle at some point, I think.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right, this is great. I need to get this thing.
Yeah,
right.
Pretty sure it's a free app, or maybe a couple dollars.
Favorite browser?
Okay.
Chrome.
Chrome all the way.
Chrome for multiple reasons. I end up using Safari at work, strangely, but yeah, I just end up hunting to Chrome. It does everything I needed to do. And the stuff that I don't need isn't there, so it's great.
Great. Ty, thank you so much for stopping by, and hope people come by and check you out. And I'll stop by and talk history later on.
Definitely. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me.
All right.